This is the Wacky Rig, and today we'll be going into my setup for the Wacky Rig and just Wacky Rig fishing in general. First off, with my setup for the Wacky Rig, I really like Gary Yamamoto Senko's the 5-inch over about any other brand of senko. I don't really like Guggen's, stickbait, Yums. They work perfectly fine. They just don't fall as quickly or with that fluttering action. They have more of a sway. And so I like to fish the Gary Yamamoto, but my other options that I also like are the Missile Baits 48, which is just a little bit of a different profile, but still has a good fluttering action. And then a new one that I've gone to try a little bit, but not completely, is the Rapala or the Crush City Pig Stick. And I've been testing it out in the fish tank and going out in the water a couple times, and it has some real promise. I really like that one. And for hooks, I like the sence Wacky Rig hooks in a 1/0 size, and the Gamakatsu finesse wide gap. And then I also like a lot from Hayabusa, and I have a lot of different types that I like from them. And probably the most critical part of my Wacky Rig fishing is the VMC crossover ring. The 7mm is what I like to use for the normal 5-inch stick bait. And I've just found that they make the Gary Yamamoto's last so much longer, and I can fish with one and catch 5, 6, 7 fish on it, and the bait not come off. I've even worn the salt out of them to the point where I need to change it anyways. So the VMC crossover rings, if you're using the Gary Yamamoto's, which tear a little more easily, they're a necessity for me. Then I almost always use the 5-inch size Gary Yamamoto, but they also make a 6-inch, which is a lot bigger than just, it's a lot bigger around, than the 5-inch, but I found that the 6-inch, when you're looking for that bigger bite. And then one that I recently picked up is the 7-inch, which is a lot bigger, and I haven't actually gotten a chance to throw this one yet, but I will be experimenting with it throughout 2025. And then for my color selection, there's the good old green pumpkin, but I found variations of green pumpkin. Like this is green pumpkin blue. I have really had a liking to the blacks. This is black with red flake. And I've just found that on certain days, the black, it stands out and the fish can see it from so much further, but it's still pretty natural. I found that just some days it gets bit so much more than the other colors, but some days they want something a little more natural. Then one thing that's really special about the Wacky Rig is just how far back you can cast, skipping under docks, and just how far back you can cast. And you can get into places that most other baits can't get into. Here's a bright blue color. And I found that almost every color catches fish, but I found that certain ones just work better in certain situations. Here's the blue crawl, and it can stand out in a lot of different watercolors. And then here's probably one of my favorite colors. It's smoke watermelon, or smoke watermelon. So it's smoke on the top, which is more of like a June bug, and then it's watermelon green pumpkin on the bottom. But I found this color really works, especially in some of the clearer water. For my wacky rigs, I like to use a 15-pound braid to a 10 or 12-pound leader. And I like to use that 12-pound when I'm around timber or bigger fish. And then I like to use a 7-foot medium fast rod. And sometimes I have used a medium heavy in the past, just to get that more backbone. But I use a medium fast right now. And I use a Ibu Garcia Veritas, the newer one, and a Shimano Miravel. And this setup, I recently picked it up, and I've really been enjoying it. The rod is quite sensitive, and the reel is quite smooth. And I like to use a stiffer rod. Like, if this is a rather heavy medium action rod, like it just has a little more backbone than your average rod. But so I like to have a good backbone, but it still has to be finessey enough to throw the weightless wacky. And as of how I like to fish it, I like to throw it in the very back corners of places, up under trees, if there's a tree hanging over the water, and that's a really good place for it. And I've just found anywhere where it's hard to get other baits, or any place, cover, or structure that would hold fish, it just skip a wacky rig in there, and it seems to catch a lot of the fish, and it's a sneakier approach to catch some of those bigger fish, because the wacky rig, it sinks pretty fast, so when it goes right beside a big fish's face, wiggling and wobbling, it just seems to trigger them to bite. And that's all I have on the wacky rig. Leave your thoughts down below about the wacky rig. I found in my experience that it's one of the most reliable baits to catch a lot of numbers, but also that bigger caliber of fish, which a lot of people don't think the wacky rig catches. But thanks for watching.